Hello, and you're listening to Let's Drone Out. Sorry about the late start. We were just waiting for everyone to get here on this lovely bank holiday. Tonight, you're joined by everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Hello.
Cole.
Howdy.
Stephen.
Just made it back in time. Hello.
He's the reason why we were late. And I'm Jack, Bright Till I Fly. Hello. And let's start the show. A whole 10 minutes late.
Outrageous.
First thing we should discuss is Cole's two-tone head, which I once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Oh, what the weird...
Wow.
Yeah, what's that about? Is that wearing a hat?
Yeah, long story short, I went to a race car sort of event thing, and I decided to wear my hat backwards on a bright day. Great idea.
I was thinking, did you have some kind of bandana or something going on there? It's hard to visualize. Yeah.
No, it was just I don't have a hat handy to show you, but no, it was just me being silly and not really realizing I should wear my hat the right way.
Trouble is, it would get in the way of the camera, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah.
So I
That's
guess
true.
that's why. He's
what
hilarious.
you do for your art.
Sorry?
It's what you do for your art.
Yeah,
The
you know, got to get these sunburns. It's all for the greater good.
Hey, how's it going? We have got Tailspin, Lurgy. How you doing, boy? Richard Warwick, Ryan. How you doing? Numbskull, Clive.
Hello, everybody.
I think did I say Lurgy? Caroline.
Yeah, you lovely party people. Welcome.
Yep. Hello, Kirk. How you
Hello.
doing? Has anyone been flying this week?
A little bit, yeah.
I haven't
couple
flown
of
this week,
packs.
unfortunately, no.
Stephen, what have you been flying then? Tell us what's going.
Well, I'm trying to remember what the heck I was flying now. I think I got my little analog doodars out and started flying them. Oh yeah, I flew something. Yeah, I decided to fly analog to remember what it was like in the bad old days. I got this GEP RC Phoenix 2.5 out, which I thought was a rip-roaring monster of a quad when I got it. It's a 4S 2.5 inch with 4,500 kV motors, or the power, and hard-mounted stack. And apparently very little in the way of separation between the video feed and the ESC. It was fun. And then I flew this back to back with a 2.5 inch that I built myself and thought, yeah, I'm pretty good at building quads. I was quite happy with my building skills after this because it was fuzzy and horrific. It was interesting because I remember flying this and being astounded by the speed back in the day because I started on micros. I didn't start on 5 inch. So this was, brought back some memories, but not necessarily good memories when you compare it to newer builds.
So you do seem a bit of a digital snob. So what made you go back and try some analog to remember the bad old days?
I've just got so much of it kicking around. I mean, you think, oh, digital snob, he's just got digital. Got this. Oh, I think I've got this little guy, which is quite fun. I've been kind of getting them out. I've got one of these little carbon fiber antennas, and I just felt like revisiting some of the lighter quads because I do like digital, but I don't really think you can do digital on anything less than a 3 inch. And you have to kind of really go light to get it down to a 3 inch. It's a bit of a compromise. And I just felt like flying some of the smaller park flyer builds. So I jammed an ELRS in here, which used to have an FR Sky. It's a terrible build. Like the FC is touching the top plate, and the amount of force required to get the receiver in there and put the top plate on means the top plate is bulging slightly in the middle. It's really not ideal. It flies surprisingly well considering all that pain that I've put it through. I just felt like monkeying around a bit with some of them for the sake of old time. Has anyone else done anything this week?
No, I was just going to say though, you say you can't get under sort of 3 inches for digital, but I did notice appearing on my YouTube feed today, although I haven't looked at them, is the HD0 Whoop Light Kit. Did anybody notice that, or has anybody watched them?
No, I haven't.
I think
Yeah, I saw
Painless looked at one, Madstech looked at one. I just haven't watched them.
I mean, you can do it. I think HD0 is a very different proposition. You can definitely do it a bit lighter. It's just you have to compromise a bit. Like, for instance, you can put DJI on a 2.5 inch. That was my first DJI quad. You see that huge gap in the chassis? It's because that's designed for a full-size air unit on 2.5 inch props.
Wow.
And it flies like a whale on a go-kart. It's awful. It's got these fancy LEDs to make you think it's high-tech and cool. So they flash, and they've quite a lot of LEDs on top. But it flew absolute pants. So yeah, the Whoop VTX is nice. You get a very small camera. You get like a board camera. Instead of a camera that has a molded metal housing, you've just got the PCB, which is a nice touch, right?
Oh, so just flat and little lens on the front kind of thing? Huh.
The same thing you see on Whoops, basically, where you dispense with the
Yes.
camera housing with the bolts in the side.
It's kind of a weak thing. Hang on, I have to go shout at my cat who's scratching things.
Oh.
I did also notice that Betaflight finally put out RC7 and fixed the issue with the ICM 20689 gyros, where they were worried that it might brick some of your gyros. So I started to get out my rare and weirder builds like this Recon 5, and I upgraded that because that was with the affected gyro. And yeah, it's still yours. It still registers your movement, so off to a good start there. Probably flies like pants, but it's always been a bit of a pain, this.
Is it because like they're waiting on the new, having to switch over to different gyros?
Yeah, the MPU 6000's been basically end of life since forever. And people started to migrate to what they thought were newer gyros that they should be using. And some of them moved to BMI 270. And the MPU 6000, you could sample at 8K. The BMI 270, apparently, you can only sample at 3.2K, which just throws off all the timings inside the FC. And this week, they've been debugging these issues, and they reached out to TDK, who makes the gyros. And TDK have been like, well, why the hell are you using that? That's not the right one to use. So they've got these thousands of FCs that manufacturers have made out in the wild, and it turns out that the vendors just kind of were throwing darts at the product sheet for gyros. And they went to TDK, who are completely befuddled as to why anyone would have used that particular model. It doesn't make any sense. So I think we're starting to see some interesting guidance coming out of the Betaflight team, where they are looking to take the initiative, and rather than wait for board manufacturers to make any old stuff and they have to deal with it, they're going to get out ahead of it and start to actually recommend the chips that should be used and talk to the people who make gyros and try and narrow down what is a good gyro ahead of time. Because otherwise they've got to cope with the fallout of a half dozen different gyros, and none of which quite work properly.
Oh, man. And that's all still in the testing stage, or is this a release? It is a release candidate, isn't it? It's not an official release.
Oh yeah, they're on RC7 now, and
Okay.
RC7, they changed a bunch of stuff with GPS. By the sound of it, there's almost enough work that GPS that they were talking about putting it into the 4.4 release, because as far as they're some people are saying that the amount of GPS fixes actually warrant it being a major update, not just an RC. RCs are supposed to be everything broadly works. You just fix the features that you intended to put in at the start. Whereas the GPS return to home behavior is going to be a lot more polished. Like, it's not just they removed some bugs. It handles everything completely differently from what I can hear, to the point where it actually just it doesn't bounce anymore. It'll land and disarm smoothly. The old return to home, if it did land, it would like bounce around like a lunatic and maybe like flip itself over and do Lord knows what. And now apparently it's incredibly polished. So I'm looking forward to actually trying that out. I've never really been brave enough to try the return to home combination of not being brave enough and never wanting to prevent myself from arming without the GPS lock. So I'd just be like, I won't use return to home. I'll just use it as a speedo because
Are we talking
I'm not
about
patient
Betaflight
enough
here?
to wait. Yeah,
In this?
yeah.
So they've got an actual return to home, because
Yeah.
previously rescue mode was I'm going to crash basically at you.
Pilot aimed quad was pretty much what you were talking about before, right?
So they're now coming up with the basis of it will attempt to land and disarm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Out
Well, it
this
was
world,
always
huh?
possible. The problem it just didn't know which way it was facing, but you could determine that by going in a forwards manner and determining it from what happens on the GPS coordinates, couldn't you? It's just somebody had to get round to actually writing that.
Yeah, apparently
Interesting.
Chris Thompson has done a lot of work, CT Snooze. He's put a ton of work in there, and it's looking really promising. And there's talk in the next release of altitude hold and things as well. So remember when Tommy was on and he was saying, oh, all these pilots, they really love Betaflight, but they're absolutely crapping themselves because they've got $20,000 of camera in the air. And if they fly under a bridge and it, loses signal, they don't necessarily want GPS return to home where it flies up into the underside of a bridge or something. They want it just to stay there until you get signal back. Well, that's going to be implemented by the sound of it, which is very promising. So it will just
Interesting.
hold itself at an altitude and not try and fly back to the pilot. Just be like, oh, no signal. Well, I guess I'll stay here until I get signal again.
Which I think that's pretty much very similar to what the DJI FPV drone does. I saw a guy post a video recently where he, I guess, fail-safed, and then but his quad will just hovers basically on the spot. So that's kind of cool. Just extra safety features, right?
Yeah, you do run into these guys who have like return to home and they've got a problem with their transmitter, and all it does is fly back to them and torment them, and they have to stay there and wait for it to crash and fall out of the sky. Yeah,
Stays
just
50 foot in the sky and meanders round, approaching the nearby trees, just daring them. Yeah.
Interesting. I could just imagine people running around with their hands out just for when it's going to go.
And hope the props aren't still spinning.
God, yeah.
It'd be fine.
What's a finger or two?
I'm still a bit scared to try the 7-inch. I had this prop resonance issue, and I found that HQ make macro quad props, right? Where they're carbon fiber ones instead of polycarbonate. They're a carbon fiber reinforced resin. And I'm pretty sure it's going to stop the props flexing, but I'm slightly terrified to try it out because the props now look kind of scythe-like and dangerous. And I want a much larger space to try it out, I think.
You've basically put a bunch of knives on your quad.
Yeah,
it's a little bit scary.
That's the problem with the old carbon fiber like props. They were. I remember back in the day, the injuries from them were like nothing else.
Well, even just the regular props that I use, when I have to swap them out or anything, my fingers get cut up from having to hold on to them tight enough to get the just to get the nut off.
Oh, we all suffer from baby engineer hands, don't we? Too much time indoors. I get so much stick. I want to help my wife out in the garden. I've got the strength to lift stuff, but I've got like baby engineer hands. So I get myself a blister in like 5 minutes doing any like real work.
What else is
goodies? Exceedingly cheap value goodies. Have you heard of Prodrone?
Can't say I have.
No.
They're a bunch of Polish guys, and they make these dipoles, right? So it's a folded dipole. So you've got the core of the coax going one way and the shielding going the other way, and they hand make these and tune them. And I think this is 70 Polish zloty, which roughly translates into sweet nothing in English money. And,
half a sausage roll.
Yeah, half a sausage roll. They're a really nice bunch of people. It came with an absolute ton of those little nuts, the little plastic 3D printed nuts that you put on SMA antennas.
Oh, the spinners.
Yeah, I'm going to see how much is 70s Lottie in pounds. Yeah, I think
That's a fair point.
the whole thing was like 13 quid for a couple of them. It wasn't very much. They were like 5 or 6 quid per antenna. For a handmade antenna is nothing, and they seem really solidly made. So I've replaced my dodgy FR Sky antennas with those. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I had a buddy like pop round last night, so I gave him a plane and had a look through some of the old flying footage. Yeah, I keep my planes up there, so I've still got to finish one, and hopefully I'll get out and fly soon. There's just no one around down here to fly with. I suppose I could, give a few people a shout, but yeah, it's pretty quiet.
I should
my
point
neck of
out
the
there
woods.
weren't 70s Lottie each. There were 25s Lottie each. There were 70s Lottie for 2 of them and postage. So yeah, it was pretty cheap.
I can
People
pull
in the
out
chat.
MMX connectors with my bare hands. Don't mess with shady lads. He can twist your nipples right off.
Oh, danger.
Caroline.
I know.
Jack's looking up at my bottom, my fanny, as you guys would say. Is that right?
No.
That's the front bottom for a lady.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot. Well, then us Canadians say it wrong then. Interesting.
Yeah, and the Yanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we call it a bum bag.
Or
Not
a fanny pack.
No.
No.
Interesting. So that's a no-no.
It's
What is your
equivalent
shirt?
to a lady's
Is it-
feline friend.
Yeah.
What's
It's
his shirt?
just a Hawaiian shirt.
Party, Steven.
I know. Cole's wearing a Gymshark shirt by the looks of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like working out.
This is super fit stuff.
What have you been up to, Jack? Doing any soldering, any projects this week?
No, like my bench is still absolutely a shit tip. I've been mainly doing a bit of 3D printing and retro video gaming. So
What's that?
Raspberry Pi
Mm.
Model B3, so printed like
nice
a little
little
case
case.
for it. Yeah, yeah. Like
What do you run on that?
I Retro Pi. So I've been
right.
playing some old school. The thing is, I'm waiting for the operation. I've had to come off my meds, so I'm not very well, so I can't really get out. And I was supposed to be with Frank at EMF this week, but not wanting to get COVID, I'm just having to like sit out really, which sucks because I paid money for an Airbnb and a electromagnetic field ticket. So Frank's off for having the time of his life. So
If you're looking for something to tinker with on the Pi, I totally recommend Batocera, which is this Linux distro that includes a ton of different emulators with a nice front end, and it's designed to plug into a TV or like a little handheld console. It looks really, really nice. I'm running that on a couple of boxes around the house. I used to run it on a high-powered PC, and it would do everything from the really, really ancient consoles like original Nintendo stuff all the way up to PS3, and it just puts everything under one roof, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. I wonder why. Tailspin, you failed at the. It is a bit of a weird one, the old Retro Pi, but you just kind of put the ROMs. You kind of get the. You like plug in a USB, and then it sort of like generates a root directory with like loads of different consoles on, and then you put the ROMs in that, and then it will load the ROMs off the USB, which I thought was an alright way to do it, but it was a bit weird.
It's a front end for Emulation Station, isn't it? Most of these are Emulation Station under the hood.
Yeah, send me the link to the.
Yeah, I popped it in the
Right,
YouTube
man.
chat.
Thanks.
I'll put it in
man.
the private chat. Yeah, it's nice
Yeah,
to tinker with. With Batocera, like you get the same thing for Raspberry Pi and PC and a whole bunch of SBCs. So you can have them on different bits of hardware and still have the same UI and same compatibility. It's quite nice. Funky. Anyway, this week on Emulation Weekly.
I know. Yeah, I just haven't been able to, sort of like go out and go fly, which sucks. So I'm having to live vicariously through other people.
Yeah, I flew the last time that I flew. I mean, everything was all good. I was just doing some basic maintenance on my quad because I crashed into a bunch of mud. So just like cleaning it up and getting the dirt off and whatnot. Well, I managed to rip the antenna like from the, I guess, the insulation for my VTX. And I had to replace that, which was, it's not that difficult, but it was just kind of annoying. And yeah, so that was basically the only thing I've done in the past week, quad related.
Yeah, ripping antenna sucks.
Yeah.
What do you
Luckily,
use for an antenna?
Just the Tramp or the Immersion RC stuff. I actually have a couple sitting around. I don't know where they are right now, but I just got a pack of them. Oh, sorry, antenna. What am I talking about? I have, I think I have like the TBS.
Oh, you mean you like ripped off the pigtail?
I meant the pigtail. Yeah, I don't know why I said antenna. I meant
Right.
pigtail.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah. But antenna-wise, I'm just using the what's the sort of standard TBS antenna? What's the name of it now? Triumph, I think. Yeah.
Oh, the OG orange ones that are kind of like four corners. They've got kind of four bumps around them.
It is that, but it's the black version, so I'm not sure if that's like
the black ones are RHCP and the orange ones are LHCP.
Yeah. I'm right-handed. I'm running right-hand. Yeah.
That was the old ones. I've got all orange because I'm DJI. Yeah, they work pretty well.
Yeah. I've so far I've used the Menace ones, the Mad Mushrooms from Video Aerial Systems. I've tried the Triumphs, and I mean, yeah, the Triumph seems to be pretty good.
Just put one down. What about the Canadian bulletproof antenna? Have you tried these guys with the carbon fiber stem?
So I haven't tried that. Is it the Matchstick one or?
That's the Matchstick one, yeah, which is where they put this tube as a carbon fiber rod instead of a bit of insulation that they normally use.
So the only true RC antenna I've tried so far is I can't remember the name of it, but it was on like the sort of like lower end budget version. So I probably should have spent a little bit more and got the sort of higher end one, but I wasn't that impressed. But again, it was a really cheap one. So
yeah, someone was raving about them, so I thought I'd give it a shot. I've just got the one. So far, I haven't broken it, but I've only flown it once. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hasn't Curry got some cool hardware that he's been checking out? You've gone all iFlight 7-inch crazy?
Yeah, although that was weeks ago I flew that. That was the Chimera 7. I just managed to get round to actually doing the last bit of the video for it this week because I was feeling rough and I was going to fly it some more. And then I thought, I don't know when I'm going to fly again. I'm just going to put the video out. But yeah, that was good fun. It was a nice... It's like the old days of quads when you pick it up and it says, "Whoa, this is heavy." But yeah, it was a good cruising platform, and because it's so big, so long, and has big plates, and you can put the batteries on top or underneath. Basically, I got it so I could replace some bits with OpenHD. So it's got plenty of room to put the Pi Zero in and the Wi-Fi adapter and the digital camera. So that should be my replacement quad build for OpenHD, basically. Which sounds weird to talk about. Only like a month ago, there was DJI. There's possibly this thing called HD0, and now I can't look at my YouTube feed without seeing the latest speculation video about what Walk Snail will have, or what the new DJI goggles will bring, because nobody knows. And I'm sure Fat Shark are just loving everybody just speculating non-stop about it. They could very easily clear up any rumours with some actual facts, but I'm sure they're loving the fact that people have talked about this.
I'm sure they're loving the press, but asking people to plonk down $700 for a pre-order doesn't seem to be helping them any, because it turns out that Flywheel were asking $2 for a pre-order. So a lot of people have just gone and ordered the Flywheel ones and been like, oh, maybe I'll wait another month after Fat Shark, whatever. But, it's a lot less than 700.
It's big money. That's the thing. Everything is going to be big money for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yep.
I went looking for flight controllers, just idly wondering. There's a couple of old units where I thought I needed to upgrade. There's one that I really want to fly. This guy, which is a 4-inch that I built a long time ago and I couldn't get it working properly. And it's got one of these pin-connected FC and ESCs, which I've always suspected was a death trap. This is the only quad I've actually fitted a beeper onto, like a battery-powered beeper. And I want to fly it, but every time I fly it, it tries to fly away. And it just kind of, one time it just went bananas and I thought I'd lost it and I had to go hunting for it. It just took off. And I God knows what was up with it. So I'm looking to replace it. But all the nice H7 FCs seem to have dried up. I can get a Maytech, but nothing else. And ESCs seem to have just started to cost the earth all of a sudden. A little bit worried.
Costs too much.
But it's getting stupid the last month.
Yeah, I did want to pick up. Me and you had a quick conversation a couple of days ago, and I thought it'd be interesting to put this out there to our viewers at the moment, because it's about the new open source ESCs you were talking to a vendor about, and they're starting to talk about getting the very first one out. And I've already forgotten the name of it because I'm got to.
It was AM32, and it's coming out from SkyStars. They tweaked an earlier ESC. They had a 55 amp 4-in-1, and they're releasing it with AM32 pre-flashed, which is nice because if you flash it yourself, you're dealing with kind of 1 mil pads, and they're not labeled. You have to kind of. I had to use a continuity checker and run down the pins to figure out which was the SWD and SWC pins, and then get the ST Link 2 and flash it, and that's a pain in the bottom. It's doable if you're patient and careful, but it's painful. So they're pre-flashing these. It sounds like they're manually pre-flashing them, and it seems to be a bit pricey.
But as soon as that's on there, you're saying that one of the things you liked about it, I remember, is like you just get like a Chrome browser and you can do any changes and stuff to ESCs like that. Because I was interested in this because you were quite excited about it because there's BLHeli support on like Linux, and anything that's not Windows is not very good. And my point of view was, I'm just not sure how excited other people would be about it, because I think messing around with ESCs is one of the things I do the least. I might do it on initial startup, and it's mainly because that one needs reversing, because you do the lottery about wiring motors up, and it's like that one runs the wrong way. I was really interested to know if people got excited about this, because I was like, I mean, it's good. There's other things, but it's very rare that I'm flying a quad and I think, oh man, this ESC is not right. Unless it's quite obviously very, very wrong. It's not something I fiddle with. What about you guys? And you guys in the chat?
All the other peeps.
Yeah, well, I run KISS, don't I? And the only variation I've had is the
ones that don't catch fire and the ones that do catch fire.
Yeah, FET Tech basically. Yeah, I'm risking my life for the FET Techs, and so much so that I was basically building a 6-inch quad, even though I've only really got maybe one 6S battery, which I've combined to Tattoo 3S together, which is not something I should really be admitting out loud.
Exciting.
But yeah, and just haven't really got the flight controller for it or another VTX, so it just kind of stopped there. I've got the motors, I've got the FetTech ESC, but yeah, like there's no VTXs out there, and I've got a camera, and just trying to get a, either buy a KISS V2 flight controller, or try and trying to hold out for another what are they, KISS Ultra, or failing that, it's like try my luck with the G3 or whatever the FetTech guys are calling the the
G4,
the G4 flight controller. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I just kind of I put it on the back burner for
Yeah. My personal take on this is that BL Heli 32, while it was a step up from BL Heli S, hasn't really gone anywhere. And a lot of the features, like the variable RPM and the by RPM stuff that tried to avoid harmonics, those seem to have actually come from AM32 and then been ported over to BL Heli 32. So I kind of think that the BL Heli 32 project needs to kick up the bottom, needs a bit of competition in the marketplace. People are still blowing ESCs. Current limiting doesn't seem to be delivering, and maybe just a bit of competition would help people by delivering an ESC that can actually do proper current limiting and could be a bit safer, and maybe bring on the power a bit smoother. Just have a little bit of innovation in that space, because when you've got one project and that project thinks it's essentially feature complete and it's done, you're not going to get innovation.
Maybe they had a big whiteboard and it said, spin motors, tick, we're done. It's essentially it, isn't it? It's like spin motors, but there's like little subheadings like smoothly.
Yeah.
So ESC doesn't explode. Those are things to write down.
Yeah. It's, it was worrying with, what was it, Daniel from Let's Play Dementia. Daniel from what is his name? The really short outro.
Thanks for watching.
Test
Bye.
Flight. Yeah, Test Flight. I think, is it Test RC or something?
RC Test Flight.
RC Test Flight. That's it.
Yeah.
And he was doing the current limiting with the BL Heli ESCs with the Snowcat, and it just
didn't really do much.
Yeah, it didn't. It was just like, it was just, I don't know what it was based on.
I told you to limit the current, and it goes, command received. I'm dead.
Yeah,
like, what are you doing?
Explodes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people using AM32 who are from kind of, it appears to be two principal camps. You've got the racers who fly hard, keep the hardware as light as possible, and beat the snot out of it. And you've also got guys who are doing crawlers, where they need a very smooth motor startup. They don't want to spend a lot of money on those censored motors because they cost an arm and a leg. So they want smooth sinusoidal startup, and they want like the ability to control power to the ESC without burning it out. So if they hit an obstacle, to slowly increase the power so you can slowly shove the vehicle over it without suddenly spasming and leaping forwards. So it's kind of the opposite of a quadcopter stall, where if you hit something, you just want to yoink the power from that before you burn effect. So that there's a lot of feedback that goes into this, all about power control. It looks like it's on course to produce something that saves the ESC hardware from burning up. Which is, I think,
sounds like something that would have been handy when I was doing my very cheap electronic skateboard build, where my car ESC would go from 0 to very fast, or just stop which is hard to keep hold of.
Yeah.
I think I missed that project, Curry. I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yeah, included a trip to Casualty. Good
Oh.
fun.
Yeah, fell off, didn't you? And
Dangerous.
The
yeah.
wife, the wife banned
Apparently-
you forever.
It was.
dear.
It was. I still had reverse available on it, and I think it went into reverse instead of brake immediately.
Oh my word!
Ooh.
Meaning skateboard stopped. Me keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think something else they introduced is car mode, which means that you can do this double pull: one pull to brake, and then two pull to reverse. So that's
Yes.
that's another thing.
This
useful.
one was, if you go into neutral, then when you pull it again, it's reverse. As I found out, you have to go straight from accelerate to brake. If you let it go to neutral first and then you hit brake, it goes into reverse.
Yeah. Not
So
a
I
lot of
spent-
people want to reverse on a skateboard, do they? Not a
It
lot
was
of
quite
people.
useful because I didn't know how to skateboard, so every time I sort of came off, I just used to like come back to me. Brilliant, I'll get back on. That was great. I thought this was a good feature until it stopped and I fell off. And then, yeah, it wasn't so good.
Much out.
Well, that does sound a bit scary if you don't have a smooth, stop or transition, because it'll just ejecto skateboarder you. Like you'll just,
Like I said, it was built on a budget. If you wanted one of those, I think they were called the DESCs, which had a very smooth acceleration, especially built for skateboards, that cost more than the entire skateboard cost to build.
Oh wow, well, exactly.
Right.
That makes
Well,
This is the thing. You can
this
get
one I need
like
a haircut.
oh my word! You can get like an iFlight stick ESC, a single ESC that does 55 amps.
Two
And you can-
batteries.
Flash AM32 onto that, and then you've got something that can drive a big stonking motor like that.
Yeah.
That's wild. Wow.
Well, there's some feet.
Wait,
Yeah,
Curry, so
that.
and this is with no prior skateboarding experience?
I'm a natural, aren't I? You can. It's like
Look at that, boys!
this is
That's
this is
safer.
like I don't know how to skateboard. I'm going to sit on it.
I
Let's see what
noticed that
happens.
you've got knee pads and elbow pads on, which is great because you're right next to the asphalt. It's very safe.
Yeah, obviously full safety equipment was.
Oh yeah, full safety
used at
equipment. I
all
can
times.
see your helmet there in case you get a head injury. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Helmets, wrist pads, elbow pads, D pads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, this
Jock.
is electric skateboard built on a cheap. The idea was to build it for about, I think it worked out about $120 or something like that, all in.
Yeah,
Well,
because
that's
you
what
need
the batteries.
you
Well, at least
need
you've
all
got
your
a
money
longboard.
Huh?
for the hospital bills.
Thank goodness for the free NHS. That's back when you can actually go there.
I
Hmm.
know.
There we go. We're heading along now.
Oh, it looks like you're doing okay there, cruising along.
Yeah.
Well, I feel
I
like
never
those
put it up to full speed because it was too frightening.
Yeah,
Oh, is this the fall? Thanks, Jack.
the
the horror.
He's down.
Oh.
The shoe
Ouch.
came off.
he got.
it's
glass
good that
on
you're
off.
wearing pants at least. Or
Yeah.
sorry, trousers. Is that the right term?
Oh,
I was wearing pants as well, but yeah, trousers is the term.
Yeah.
Ow.
So that
Ouch.
should come with a warning. Don't worry, all those are called freckles. And that's why
Road
picture
road
from
rash
A&E.
is what we call it. Road
and
rash.
then he wonders why the knee op was needed.
I've still got a weird lump on that knee, and I said, "Is this lump supposed to be here?" And they're like, "It's fine. Don't worry about it." Really? And then, because last time I saw like a rheumatologist, they looked at that knee and said, "Why is that bit sticking out?" I said, "That was a skateboard injury." And they're like, "Didn't they fix it?" I said, "No, they said they didn't need to fix it." She's like, "That's not right." I was like, "Don't worry about it. I'll just add it to
my
another
word.
knee operation later on. I'm sure it'll be fine."
Yeah, I'm taking a bit of a skateboarding hiatus because the last time I skateboarded about a month ago, I crashed really hard and it wasn't fun. It fell right on my hip.
It could work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not safe. But if I built like a scooter or an e-bike, that's what everyone's done. That's no fun at all.
Yeah.
You need to make the fucktard rideable. You need to make a full size, as big as the Tesla.
Just
Tesla
tape it onto a
replacement.
desk chair, onto like a wheelie
Sounds a
office
bit
chair.
dangerous. My daughter has got this old,
What's
in the States you'd call them like big wheels, where they've got the sort of big wheel at the front, But this is called the
Yeah.
Big Green Machine, where you've got these. You steer it like this, and you can slide out the other two wheels, so you can drift on it. And I've got. Do you remember when we went to that Hobby King show, Jack? And somebody bought that
Ladders
thing, yeah. And I've still got that motor that I
that's a
haven't
big
properly
motor.
tested, which might work with it. I keep thinking about that as a project, but you know,
That's a nice big
time,
motor. You've got to do something with that.
effort. Well, I don't know if it works or not. It was in the this doesn't work pile, but who knows with Hobby King what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a right old unit, isn't it?
It's a big one.
I know. We just. It was really bizarre, those Hobby King events towards the end. It was just like people just handing you stuff, and it was just like, okay, this is yours now, and like, oh yeah.
Well, let's see what we can do with it. I'm still with that. It's got these things have sat there for ages. The other thing I've got is that ESC. Do you remember the ESC as well, which is just ridiculous? This is the biggest ESC you've ever seen. Imagine putting these on a quad. There you go.
What?
Holy shit!
Solo carry on that. There you are.
That's a massive
250
heat sink
amps.
What?
It's got
200.
all the capacitors on the back could kill you, certainly.
Jeez,
And these,
what voltage is that?
I don't know. It's got
All of it.
It's already got 2 lots of very thick battery cables plus this
12.
anti-spark thing. I think it goes up to lots.
It looks scary.
Jeez.
I'm thinking
Danger.
about building a slug shocker to keep the slugs off my
Oh yeah, we built
Plants.
one of those.
Yeah,
Well,
what
a
voltage
9
did you go up to?
We used a 9-volt battery, and that was enough to put them off. They were actually fizzing when they crawled over it. We used a bunch of the copper tape around. Got a flower pot, cut a plastic flower pot, cut the bottom off, and then two rings of copper tape, and then put the terminals onto those 2 rings of copper tape. Actually taught Elle to solder doing this, and she soldered the wires onto it, and then there's like a 9-volt battery that goes onto that. And it was enough to make the slugs fizz when they bridged it, so they didn't like that. But the batteries didn't last very long, which was a problem.
So are you very against slugs then? Is that
Well, if you're trying to grow peas or something in your garden and the slugs just shred the entire plant before it gets a foot tall, that's kind of
that
annoying.
makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, they're really starting to piss me off. But I'm thinking about using 240 volts.
I think you might end up with some kind of RCD sort of. I think your distribution board would probably go no, or consumer unit as we should call it in domestic premises. I think it would probably trip.
Or
That
do
leakage
that
current.
horrendous thing, which I will disclaimer. Hang on. Let me. Legal advice. Any views expressed by any guest in the show are personal and may not reflect the views of others.
I mean,
And
the putting
safety
glasses.
notice. Don't be on
Do
fire.
not be on fire.
Yeah,
not
be
be on
careful
fire.
around busy roads. Do not take our advice. Have you seen the guy who gets the 9-volt batteries and staggers them to ridiculous voltage and does the
No.
massive arcs? I'm tempted on doing that.
We tried glasses of beer and things before you ask because of the obvious solutions and little pellets that were supposedly dry the ground up because slugs don't like to crawl over dry things. Nothing really worked, hence going so far as to create our own slug electrocution device, which worked briefly, but obviously the batteries don't last forever. I'm not sure about Jack's idea of using mains voltage. I suggest maybe something a bit safer like some old LiPo packs. Probably want to. They'd last longer.
Here on Let's Drone Out, where you can learn to kill slugs.
Oh no,
Yeah,
they don't
put
die
240 on it.
because
You'll have like piles of cats
Yeah.
and dogs around it, and like horses and things as well.
I
Small
don't
children.
like it. So slugs are wet, right? Not many creatures are wet. So when they bridge, they crawl up one, and then they reach the next one. Then they start to get electrocuted, and they just arc back and they move away. They don't die, but if they try and crawl over both of them, then they experience a lot of discomfort.
Sorry, is
So they
this
just don't do
300
it.
batteries in series?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Do not
It's hard to-
follow this. Do not do it. Don't even think about doing it. this guy
the
is a
most awkward
moron.
way to make raisins from grapes or something. What's he trying to do here?
I-
He's got 2 nails in a grape and like 300 batteries, and the nail flies out of the grape.
I think he had to remove a lot of the spiciness of this, because I remember it being way more scary.
Mm.
Seems
Yeah.
quite scary.
Speaking of odd videos, did anyone watch the video where they slapped a chicken to cook it? That's one of my favourite.
Yes.
I've seen that come up in my list to watch this, but I haven't seen
It's
it.
quite interesting. This is interesting.
Yeah, like proper plasma horribleness. But, you know, I think it's one way of doing it.
Crazy.
So, things you can do when you can't go out and fly.
I think we're
electric
going
death.
a bit weird. Wasn't cricket FPV anodizing titanium bolts? Doesn't that? I know I've seen like anodizing aluminium, but not titanium.
I thought anodizing only works on aluminium because you're basically creating a much greater surface area, right? So when you anodize aluminium, you create this corroded layer on the outside, and the corrosion has like more ridges in it, and so the extra ridges increase the surface area, and that allows it to like take in dye and paint much better than naked aluminium does. So
I'm
I
still
thought it was
very upset.
specific to aluminium.
Yeah, I'm still very upset that you can't anodize things to be the color white. This particle's too small.
Yeah.
I thought we would have figured something out by now, but I suppose that's what powder coating's for.
Yeah. Powder
Or
coating's arguably more straightforward. Just get a spray can, move on with your life.
It was the different voltages that gave various colors. Yeah, or time. Either one.
right.
I think that's how it works. I'm not
So
too
not
sure.
the same type of anodizing that you do with aluminium, where you actually do like a dye layer afterwards, but you're actually using the voltage to change the color.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like. Tailspin's
Cool.
talking about. Have you got anything else lined up, Curry? Anything else come in the door for review?
No, one video I'm just going to finish off maybe tomorrow is at the same time when I was flying with the Commando and that larger quad is I put the RunCam thumb on a quad to test out. I've got it there. Hang on, I'll show it to you.
Oh yeah, Gyroflow is hot right now. I noticed there's a X Lite 2 that's come out. Lots of noise about that this week.
What I did, I like to test things as they come to me without watching other people's stuff about it. So I took one of the mounts that came in the RunCam pack. I put it on a very smooth flying 5-inch quad, and I took it out and I flew it around, and I used the it came with like a little ND filter. I thought that's going to help. Put that on, and the footage from it is absolutely shockingly bad. Basically, it's all shaky and horrific, and so I put it through Gyroflow, and Gyroflow doesn't fix shaky, wobbly jello vision, and so it's kind of the case that you have to soft mount them and don't use that mount because that mount's rubbish, which is like so I was going to do some more on it, but I thought, you know what, I don't know when I'm going to get flying again. Let's put a video out because this is my first pass. It's like I bought this from RunCam, I tested it just as it came, and it's absolutely hopeless. So it might be the fact, you can mount it better. Do you remember in the olden days we all used to use, you'd get a bit of packing foam and you're like, oh, this is just the right density for popping on the quad, and then putting your session on top of it and putting a strap round just to dampen down those wobbles. That was the way to do it. So it seems like you have to go back to the old days. The problem is with that, I think, is RunCam, well, this is my opinion at least, RunCam sort of proposition this is like, oh, it's a cheap camera and it generates gyro data, so it's brilliant. I thought, oh, this would be great because people that are sort of starting out, or they're not confident enough to put an expensive GoPro on that, can use that. But in order to get it smooth enough, you're basically either investing a huge amount of effort in both dampening and tuning and then doing all this stuff, and that sort of takes away the beginner aspect. And it's like, so if you've done lots of flying before, you're probably okay and you can do this anyway. But if you've done lots of flying before, just shove a GoPro on it and it'll just be smooth out of the box. So it's kind of, don't know at the moment, but I'll do some more with it. But yeah, I'm revealing. Now you won't have to watch my video. You freed yourself another 20 minutes.
Do you think that
there.
Runcam were being a bit cheeky there because they did something that recorded gyro data, but by all standards, that image quality is atrocious?
I think the image quality is fine as long as you don't move. The best footage I've had from it is when I'm just looking at it like that, saying, "Is the light on?" After that point, it's a bit like I don't know if you started flying at this point, Steve, but when you were using the 808 cams or even the Mobius and stuff like that, if you didn't have those really soft mounted, you'd get this shake that you just couldn't take away, and you couldn't smooth out by anything. It's reminded me of the old days
Is there a
like
lack
that.
of mass in the camera mount where it just needs more material to give it rigidity?
I don't know if you want it rigid or you want it to dampen more, but most of the modern cameras have some sort of electronic image stabilization as well as doing like in the camera stabilization. So that just doesn't have anything. It doesn't have any fancy electronics. I think it's just relying on the fact that saying, look, we can generate gyro data with it and you can put it into this program. But that program cannot take out these little tiny wobbles. I'm sure if you were doing this, big movements, it would be great. But when it's like that vibration, it's just constantly doing this, it can't touch that.
That's why I was wondering if they're being a bit cheeky because they're kind of relying on the gyro feature where they really should have a decent camera to start with and then add gyro on top of it, instead of saying, well, the footage is a bit crap, but if you run gyro flow, you can make it bearable.
I think so. I mean, you can get good footage out of it. After I tried it out and I did my sort of independent thing, I talked to Andy RC about it, and he said he spent so long in gyro flow getting even more points that it would suggest and doing all sorts of experimentations. But he had, from the get-go, a fairly smooth quad because he already went and did the soft mounting of it and stuff. And the soft mounting is like ridiculously soft, like you can sort of squidge it about all over, sort of thing. But what it's not, because what you want all cameras to be essentially is just you pop it on your quad, you plug the battery in, and it's good to go. And it's definitely not that. It's you can't.
You got to work for your
fix
money.
The problem.
You're getting a £50 camera, but you have to put in an extra 40 quid's worth of your time to make it usable.
Yeah, and like the difference is, I stuck my older GoPro 7 on that Chimera 7 and didn't do anything, and that's like butter smooth. This thing is on a smooth quad. I look at my DVR footage and it's like perfect, and I look at the HD footage and it's like someone's got a hold of it. It's just going, oh, I'm going to kill you all the way around, which is not fun.
Yeah, we need to get away from constantly giving GoPro our money because it's clear that they hate us.
Well, they only hate us in the UK.
All right.
In Canada too.
I think the trouble is that GoPro have that patent on in-camera stabilization. So anybody else that does it, GoPro's going to come after them big.
EIS and OIS and not GoPro patents, like that's available elsewhere.
Well, I guess the Super View is also...
Yes, but they've patented Hypersmooth.
They're patenting
their
the word
particular
Hypersmooth,
method
right.
of doing in-camera stabilization is a patent which they will defend rigorously.
Yeah.
So Insta360 does it aftermarket, and that's how they get around that, and GyroFlow does it aftermarket, and that's how it all works.
It's the in-camera part that they've got.
I've also been reading this because I like to keep up to speed on the reviews, and I saw that Firefly have released a couple of products, and it looks like there's we're starting to see cameras that used to be split cameras now being marketed as gyro flow capable. They've added the ability to record gyro data, and evidently there's either an IMU that was already there and unused, or they've added an IMU. And it looks like they've produced some stuff that seems to work a bit better than the thumb. There's a Firefly split that they've put in a 3D printed case, and there's something they're calling an X-Lite, which is kind of an action camera size thing. It's about the size of a naked GoPro. And that seems okay, but the Runcam Thumb was the first one that arrived on the scene, designed for gyro flow, and it feels like is the worst, unfortunately.
I think so.
I tried.
Yeah, I mean,
oh, go ahead, Kurt.
sorry, I was just going to say Caroline was mentioning the Cadex Peanut. If you've looked at some of Caroline's wing footage flying that, it smooths it out to such a perfect extent. It looks like she's flying the perfect wing flight.
Yeah.
Even though the in-camera stuff of the DVR was kind of, we know how wings are. They bubble about in the wind. But again, that's more money, and I think that's the message. You can get really good footage, you just can't get it on the cheap unless you're prepared to put so much effort into it.
Is over £200, and we're talking about the Runcam being 50 quid. The Hawkeye I was looking at, so the split version, there's a split camera in a little 3D printed box, that's going for $72, so about 50 quid. And the slightly fancier full-blown action camera version is $150. So $150 versus £215 on the Peanut. It's not really a fair comparison. One is very much a budget version of the other. It's almost twice the price to go for the Cadex Peanut compared to these, even the most expensive version of them.
I suppose the question is the footage twice as good?
Yeah, that's what you've got to ask, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely more convenient to use. The Cadex Peanut, you just press go and you don't have to worry. Whereas this, you've got to sync up your footage to the gyro data, jump through a few hoops, maybe run the stabilization process a couple of times to make sure the results are spot on. I guess it's just, where do you want to spend the money? Would you want to? The ultimate thing is you spend 300 quid or more on a GoPro and it's just perfect, or you spend a little less on a Peanut and there's some compromises, or you spend a bit less on a gyro flow capable camera, and you have to put in a bit of graft yourself, but you end up with some nice footage perhaps.
Yeah, I've seen some really good results from like the Insta360 Go 2 and the Peanut as far as just in-camera stabilization. That in-camera stabilization mixed with the super crazy wide view, just it's just so smooth.
They do top out at lower resolutions, though. I think the Peanut's only a 1440p camera.
Yeah. Surprisingly, they're good in low light, though. I've seen some pretty good low light, examples from it, which for such a small sensor and a small camera, it's pretty surprising.
Yeah, it feels like that whole wide dynamic range HDR thing is kind of a discussion of 5 years ago. Most of them do a decent job of it. That was an area where the Runcam Thumb didn't impress me, though. Seeing the filming in typical British conditions, which is crap lighting, loads of cloud, it looked a bit...
Sun just above your eye level, if it's there.
Yeah, right. Wasn't impressive.
Yeah, surprisingly, sometimes I actually like the look or the quality that comes out of the Runcam 5 Orange over the Session 5, with the GoPro Session 5. Yes, the Session has a wider field of view in Super View, but I don't know, I feel like the Runcam 5 Orange handles exposure better than the GoPro for some reason, but it is quite a bit newer, so it probably has a better, image processor or something in it that can sort of compute those things way faster. So
right, that Runcam 5 Orange also gyro flow capable, but apparently it stutters like crazy if you try and record gyro data, so it's problematic, unfortunately.
I mean, I haven't really had any issues with stuttering, like, because it spits out the gyro data after every clip, whatever, on the SD card. But I don't know, it takes a lot of tinkering to get with gyro flow takes a lot of tinkering, basically, no matter what, right? So it's
right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the glory days of Space Bear, Kari. Very funny. Should we call it there? Is that all we got time for?
I don't know. It's up
Really
to
sorry.
you.
Yes. Everyone's
Yeah.
homework is to go and fly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
will once I get cut open and put back together.
Huh. Looks like a lot of people are saying they actually, they kind of agree that they like the footage from the Runcam 5 Orange over the session.
I almost bought that a couple of years ago. Just never quite pulled the trigger on it.
Might be worth doing. But
Maybe.
who knows? Thank you. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. We are a show that hasn't got any adverts or any of the horrible, adverts.
We
and
are
we're not-
supported by you, our wonderful Patreons.
Yep. We're not anyone's slave.
We're not selling you a mattress.
Yeah.
We're not selling you a dietary supplement.
Yep. And our cooking ability is awful. And we're
We're not even trying to teach you anything with an online course.
Yep. And we're not even controlled by this all being entity that sounds like Red Matt. But rhymes with dead tat. Anyway, thank you to all our lovely Patreons.
Tat.
Yeah. Oh, VPNs as well. Yep. We've never recommended a VPN. It's just openly, like how Theresa May would have wanted it. Shout out your Google searches as you type them out the window.
I will recommend Beavertown Bloody L beer. It's tasty. That's all you're going to get.
I recommend water.
Water helps.
Yep. Thank you to all our lovely Patreons. You keep us going. You guys rule, and thank you, editor, for editing it. All the dead air and swear words out. You've been joined by everyone's favourite kitten,
Goodbye.
Cole Anderson.
See ya.
I don't know why I said your whole name, but there you go. Stephen.
Doxed,
I'm
outrageous.
doxed. No.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks all
If
the
you
lovely
wanna-
Patreons.
Yeah, if you want to know, the thing is, it's on your YouTube now. He's on. If you go to the front page of LDO, you can see Cole's YouTube channel. And I've been Bright Till I Fly. Thank you, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We love you. Thank you, lovely patrons. Have a good night.
And make sure to buy Raid Shadow Legends, the next available game.
Oh, no. All right, thank you. Good night.
Use NordVPN to download it because you want to be safe.